So welcome everyone to today's Purple Flag Forum, where we're going to be talking about creating an impact through cultural nightscapes. And I thought it worth starting off just thinking about, what is culture and what does that mean to us? And culture is a cornerstone of the evening and nighttime economy. It's such a vital and enriching aspect of, any town or city, and it shapes that identity and provides that vibrancy. And it does serve as that powerful tool to facilitate communication and connection and allow an opportunity for self-expression among diverse groups of people. And, cultural initiatives have that potential to bring those different groups together and introduce them to innovative and exciting spaces, foster that inclusivity, and allow that opportunity to share those lived experiences. And they have the power to create a profound and really enduring impact on our towns and cities. For example, here we've got the Notting Hill Carnival. So it's a yearly celebration recognising heritage and community with music and food and a very large parade. It's the second largest street festival in the world, only beaten by the Rio de Janeiro Carnival in Brazil. And in 2024, a study found that the total direct or net economic impact of the Notting Hill Carnival was over 396 million a year. So there's that huge impact to the direct area and then that ripple effect sort of going out. Similarly, we see this with the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is one of the highlights of the cultural calendar. It's the world's largest performing arts festival, and it does transform the city into such a vibrant cultural hub every August. It attracts thousands of visitors who really immerse themselves in that extraordinary array of artistic experience while they explore the city. In 2022, it did bring in, it was 492 million for Edinburgh's economy and 620 million for Scotland's economy more widely. Another example, we've got the Flout in Ireland, which is an annual event promoting the learning and performance of Irish traditional music and dance. And each year it's held in a different location, ranging from large cities to rural villages. Quite a few purple flag areas have hosted the Flout, including Mullingar and Ennis, Dublin, Sligo, Drogheda, and Derry Londonderry. In 2024, it was hosted in Wexford and it drew over 600,000 visitors. And it was estimated that it injected around 60 million into the local economy. So there is that massive impact from these larger cultural events. But what's sort of about the overall picture of culture? The Nighttime Industries Association Nighttime Economy Report provided some valuable data on the current state of the UK's nighttime economy. And it did look deeper into the value of culture at night. The nighttime cultural economy is defined as the nighttime economy that's driven by sort of cultural and artistic event activity where alcohol, drinks, and food come second. The nighttime cultural economy saw a substantial increase in consumer spending from 23.8 billion in 2021 to 38.3 billion in 2022. So that's an increase of around 14.5 billion or 60.9%. And it's a significant apparent bounce back post-pandemic. However, when we look at these figures adjusted for inflation, the real term kind of figures do show that in the last 5 years, it's not kept pace with inflation and the sector income has actually shrunk. Within 2022 as well, we saw that the nighttime cultural economy showed an increase in employment from 2021. So there was a 6.6% or around 28,000 additional positions within that sector. So that's despite those challenges around inflation and it being one of the most affected parts of sort of wider hospitality and leisure businesses. So this does lead to the question of how is culture supported at that government level? Within the Irish government, the Department for Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media has seen a year-on-year increase of 70 million euro. This includes increased support for natural cultural institutions, an additional 3.8 million, including things like pay to enhance core programs, learning and outreach activities. There's been an allocation of 2.5 million to support that ongoing development of the nighttime economy. This allocation supports the nine nighttime economy advisors, some of which are on the call today, and a new grant scheme to support those small grassroots venues, which we know are so important in generating that vibrancy and that cultural diversity for the nighttime economy. For the UK, in recent years, we have seen public funding decrease for cultural sectors. Grant and aid funding for the UK arts and cultural organisations fell 18% between 2010 and 2023. And this led to an increased relying on funding purely from sort of private sectors to sort of get them by. 32% saw their funding from local authorities decrease or stop entirely compared to the previous financial year. And local government revenue funding of culture and those related services decreased by 29% in Scotland, 40% in Wales, and 48% in England. Now, the autumn budget contained details of the government settlement for the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, setting out funding of 2.3 billion for 25-26, which is equivalent to around an average annual real terms growth of about 2.6% from 23-24 to 25-26. Stakeholders from the cultural sector gave a mixed reaction to this announcement. While additional measures like increases in grant aid funding and capital investment were widely welcomed, various stakeholders did voice that concern about the impact things like increases in national minimum wage and the employer national insurance contributions on that sector that's already under quite a lot of pressure. So we can see and understand these challenges for the cultural sector. The NTIA report highlighted that those closures of things like underground clubs, grassroots music venues, and art centres will have a significant decline in the cultural economy. An article here from December 2024 stated that research from the Society of London Theatre and UK Theatre found that 1 in 5 venues need at least 5 million of investment over the next decade just to continue operating. And without significant capital investment, 40% could close within the next 5 years. So this does present an uncertain future. However, if we're to preserve culture, we have to continue to create it. So that does bring us to today's conversation. We'll be looking at how Purple Flag areas and areas more generally can support culture after dark. We've got a fantastic speaker. We've got Jerry Farrell from Dublin Town, who's going to be talking to us about Dublin at night. Just before I bring Jerry in, just a quick reminder that next Tuesday we'll be hosting ATCM Ireland in Mullingar from 10 till 4. We will be discussing things like community safety, nighttime economy, and culture. So if you are interested, I'll pop a booking link in the chat box. If you want to join us, it's open to everyone. But Jerry, if I could just bring you in and we can learn a wee bit more about Dublin at night.
Oh, just checking, can everyone hear me okay on the headphones and all that?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to try and share my screen because I do have slides. Now, you'll be pleased to know that I'm not going to go through these in huge detail. Can people see what I put up?
We can see it. We can see down like the left-hand side, like slide by slide as well, though.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm going to do that. Is that better? Or is the slide panel still there?
If you, yeah, it's just zoomed it in a wee bit.
Maybe it's just like it. Look, it's not hugely crucial, but yeah.
You're all good.
Yeah, there's loads of slides here, but a lot of it's just imagery to kind of give you a sense of the event. Cheating a little bit here. Well, Adele is a little bit, because Adele would be familiar with some of this because Adele worked on the Dublin by Night event back in 2023, which is our first kind of proper year of it. So just the Dublin by Night Festival, what it is and who funds it and where it came from. I suppose post-COVID, we were looking at how we get people back into the city centre. And one thing we did notice is that there was a very quick return from people for any large scale event. So people were worried that there'd be, low crowds at the first St. Patrick's Day parade after, COVID in like kind of the first full one day in 2022. There wasn't, it was packed out, and other, large scale events. There was a feeling that the nighttime economy definitely needed, because I'm sure most of the folks on the call have probably had similar experiences in their own towns and cities, that nighttime is finishing a bit earlier now, that the people are looking to leave by midnight. That kind of post midnight, late night sort of stuff is disappearing, even on Fridays and Saturdays. We've seen that in our own footfall, even on busy streets, and streets that the handful of streets that have seen steady or even small increases in footfall. The post midnight footfall is almost not there. So this is an event that we're looking at the Purple Flag, that Alive After 5 sort of thing, that takes that post work economy and kind of shopping market after work and brings it into the later night and things like that. So we're really focused on the 5 to 10 p.m. And just on the first slide, I think it's crucial to point out, we couldn't have done this event by ourselves from an organizational point of view or a financial point of view. We had loads of partners, and just to Laura's kind of previous talk about culture, we were delighted that we have the Department of the mouthful, tourism, culture, arts, Gaeltacht, sport, and media. Yeah, it's quite a portfolio, but it's an equal partner event between ourselves, Dublin City Council, Fáilte Ireland, who are our tourist body, if people aren't familiar with it, and the department. And we also, while they weren't a funder, we also had a lot of organizational, operational support from Garda Síochána. So this is our post-event report for last year. As I said, we did a small-scale event around kind of the Drury Street area in 2022 ourselves, which proved to be really popular. And we put in some temporary festoon lighting. We did a few bits and pieces. We did some stalls on the street. It was so popular that we decided to do a kind of full-scale event the following year in 2023. And then last year we did that event again, but grew it. So we grew it in terms of scale, in terms of budget, and then increased the number of locations. And again, going back to Laura's point, the brief we got from our members is that they wanted culture to be the center of it, that it's the one differentiating point that Dublin has over anywhere else, over the kind of the inner suburbs or kind of local areas that people are spending more and more time in where they live, or certainly the out-of-town shopping centres, things like that. So culture is the key differentiator. So we did it on the Friday, Saturday at the start of November. Why we chose those dates, there's a couple of reasons. Obviously, Halloween is a huge thing here in Ireland, so it's coming at the end of Halloween. It's a bank holiday weekend, and you also have we have the Bram Stoker Festival in Dublin, which runs through to the end of October. So it's kind of capitalising on that. There's already a lot of activity in town, so it's kind of that extending that Halloween period. But also Fáilte Ireland, and we'll come onto it in a bit, have a Winter in Dublin marketing and promotional campaign. They view that kind of November to end of January period as kind of a shoulder season where there's capacity in the Dublin market, which can be saturated at other times of the year, and they really wanted something to effectively launch their Winter in Dublin program, which is marketed nationally and internationally. We had a load of different of our members and other businesses involved as well, just an idea. So one location was South William Street. If you know Dublin, you might know the kind of iconic Powers Court townhouse. It was a stately home for Lord Powers Court. It's now a very nice shopping centre, but the steps up to make a natural stage. So on that one night, we had 16 stalls in the area. We also did this, you can see it quite nicely. We did the Christmas lighting in the city centre. And one of the things we did a bespoke Winter in Dublin lighting crossover, which people love. We have one on the north side of the city as well. People are getting the pictures taken underneath it. So that's the Fáilte Ireland marketing brand. And that was kind of one of the conditions of support, that we do something like that. And we were able to fund that with them. And it looks spectacular. And we've left it up, so it's still up now, even though Christmas is over, because it's Winter in Dublin. It's still the end of January. And you can see how busy the street was there. And on that street alone, we had obviously safety consultants, we did kind of head counts, and we did surveys. So we know how many people were roughly on the street for that kind of hours we're monitoring between 6 and 10. So we had over 11,000 people on South William Street alone. And an idea of some of the acts. So we hoped there was something for everyone, and culture in the broadest sense. So we had, singer-songwriters, we had bands of different varieties. So Gavin Fox's picture there, Gavin's a singer-songwriter, writes a lot of his own stuff. But then we had kind of bands that would be in rock or punk or soul, like Soleil is brilliant, she's an amazing soul singer. We had a drag performance. That's Eddie in the Purple Heart dress, Purple Heart jacket there, who Eddie runs one of the main organisers of the Dublin Pride Parade, and he was basically our compere on the night, and he's a live wire. One of the things we did this year that was new was a street art workshop, and this kind of worked quite well because we had, just because of the nature of the site, there's actually a couple of big site hoardings for construction, but we were able to do some of this stuff off-site and use it for promo ahead of the event, but then had it as a participatory piece. So it was like a street art workshop. You had the artists there, and then you had, adults, kids learning how to, design stuff and things like that. And we used that piece. I'll come on to it. We have some good photographs there. We used that piece for promo to launch a month out, but then we also have it now as a piece that was, finished off by the public, and we have it in storage, and we can reuse it for future events as well. So it's the participatory thing, and that's a crucial thing. People need to feel they're part of something, and I'll come on to it in a little bit as well. But there's a lot of activities where people could bring something home with them. So, and we create a lot of those Instagrammable moments. So again, it helps with the promotion of the event, the visibility of it, helps us justify getting funding for the other partners for next year. and also kind of gives people something tangible that they have, have a good time with and all that. And the crucial thing for us in Dublin as well is that the city, especially since COVID and we had the riots in November 2023, which actually happened just after our Dublin by Night Fest 2 years ago. We want to create that message that city is a welcoming and safe place for everyone. And these sort of pro-social events, if you want to use that terminology, really help that. And nothing works better than seeing your friends or family posting stuff or sharing photographs of them having a great time in the middle of town. Drury Street, which is next to William Street, was another location. Again, loads of different businesses involved. It's a smaller street. We had lessened the number of stalls based on the previous year just because of congestion. We still had a small stage, and we basically just great buskers in town. Anyone's ever walked down Grafton Street probably know there's fantastic buskers. We basically got them and programmed them. So we said, right, will you come in? Here's, we'll give you a fee, and we can also busk, and you're going on from 7:30 to 8. And it was a crucial thing. Like, one of the things we were happy to work with on the Department of Arts and Culture is they wanted to make sure that all the artists were paid and paid a good rate. We weren't looking for freebies on anyone. We paid everyone a fair rate for their performance, for their labor. And look, we had 7,500 people on that street over that period of time. We had more stalls the previous year, but just for congestion's sake, we reduced that and relocated stalls elsewhere. And in our new location for 2024, which I'll come on to now, just some images of the different street performers. So there was constantly something, no matter where you were on the street. If you weren't watching one of the acts perform on the little mini stages or were on the steps, which lends up at the national stage, there was performers moving through the street, dancers, street magicians, all sorts of stuff. The buskers as well, just some images of them there. And the new location we did for 2024 is the Central Plaza in front of what is formerly the old Central Bank, which is now mostly it's the WeWork, have it as an office building, but there is a plaza in front of it. It's privately owned, which means that we were able to work with the owners on that and use that space. And it's an interesting one, talking about culture and kind of organic forms of culture. Anyone, like when I was growing up, this was, the place where all the, goth kids and the emo kids and the punks and all that hung out, and lads skateboarded and all that sort of stuff. And there was huge development there, obviously, with the refurbishing of the buildings. And it's kind of coming back to that. So it is a kind of naturally occurring cultural space. And we programmed a bit of stuff here, and it worked really, really well as a space. We're really happy with it, and we're going to continue using it kind of going forward. Again, more different businesses involved. Like the vast majority are our members, and we're a business improvement district. We want this to be a showcase for our members. We're doing this to drive footfall and trade into the city, and we wanted them to see the benefit. An interesting one there, I just mentioned World of Illusion. You might see they've opened up next to the Central Bank. It's a really cool sort of thing. It's that change. I think I'm sure some of you are seeing in your towns and cities where a move away from, it might be an office building, might be a retail site, must be hospitality site, into what you might call a leisure use. So it's something you go and see and experience, but and there's more of that sort of stuff opening in the city. And you see versions of it with one of the other guys who are taking part is a crowd called Pitch, which is the indoor golf sort of thing. So they had like a putting green set up and all that, but Pitch is a bar, restaurant, cafe. It's all folks around golf, but you can also go there and book out an area and watch a match with your mates or have a PlayStation tournament or whatever, playing FIFA there. So it's a new space for us, worked really well. We had 5,000 people through it. We had arts and crafts sort of stuff. And again, this is the sort of things that people are participating, people that take away their artwork. They're being mentored or tutored by an artist. We had people doing piercings and showing people how to do tattoos. They weren't permanent tattoos, they're kind of tattoos. Art and craft sort of stuff. And again, we had arrangements. We had samba dancers and bands, and this is a very vibrant South American, it's particularly Brazilian community in Dublin. Another drag act there, and if you see the Dublin lettering there, that's some Fall to Ireland branding that we use as well. It's their city brand. And again, these are the steps into the office building, but they lend themselves naturally as a stage. We had traditional Irish music, and people were dancing jigs and reels, which I'll come on to now. More street performers. Again, these guys, it's visually arresting. This is on Dane Street. There's hundreds of buses going up and down, and like if you're looking at the bus, you do that kind of snap of the neck on what the hell is that, but in a good way. And yeah, we had like Irish dancing again. People were coming out of the crowd. The dancers were going out. These are professional Irish dancers, getting people out of the crowd, showing them a jig and a reel. The bands are playing there behind them. It was great. And then we had like cooking demos. We're like, how do we get we have a great resource in that we have excellent restaurants, excellent chefs. How do we get them out onto the street and making them visible in these locations where maybe the restaurant is 3 streets over? So we did cooking demos. We had very simple sort of situation. It's the stand, as you can see, and a big mirror up above so you can see your ready, steady, cook kind of view above, but it works really, really well. And then there's nice samples to give out to people afterwards. And then the other location, obviously, people who know Dublin know the city is divided north and south by the River Liffey. Capel Street was pedestrianised a couple of years ago. We found it very, very useful for events. We're going to be working there early next month for the Lunar New Year Festival. Obviously, it's a growing event in the Irish calendar, and it's obviously celebrated not just by the large Asian community in Dublin, but by people more broadly. So a lot of these locations are going to be reused again for the Lunar New Year. Maybe not on quite the scale, but that's happening on Sunday, February 9th. So we're constantly using these spaces that are now, not as trafficked with vehicular traffic anymore. Capel Street really worked well. We had a couple of different stages. We had live bands. It was great because there is residential on Capel Street. One of the things I was worried about is that we had quite noisy rock bands playing at one stage where people are going to be upset because we finished by 10. Now, a lot of people naturally stayed around the area. They went to the bars and restaurants, but we got no noise complaints, which I was pleased by. It was one thing that I was slightly concerned about. And again, look, it's a long pedestrianised street. It was probably our most popular space with 15,000 people through it over the course of, and our most stalls or most activations. Now, we only had one north side location where you can see previously we had kind of 2 to 3 south side locations. This is on the following night. Now, this is on the 2nd, which is Saturday, but it worked really, really well. And we had such a mix of people. This is not an event that we're aiming at families and kids, but families and kids naturally come in. And then there's and I'm sure you find this, folks, as well, when you're doing your own events, there's such a change of atmosphere when you have families and kids and 8 and 9-year-olds buzzing around you, that it just creates this atmosphere where people become way more relaxed, but also way more. It changes people's behaviour. People don't get a bit leery. And look, there's plenty of really good pubs on the street, and people were having a drink outside in the outdoor seating areas and that. But there was no messiness. Like, we were obviously the Gardaí are partners. The Gardaí had a great time, but there was no public order incidents. It was absolutely zero requirement from a crime and policing point of view. And we had 2 stages either end of the street. It's a long linear street, no kind of curbs or turns in it. Again, different street performers. The Irish dancing stores, if you can see, we had just like kids and families involved. Again, more Irish dancing. We had Eddie, who I was mentioning about in the very loud jacket, probably Ireland's most famous gay bar, Panty Bar. People know Panty Bliss as a personality. Rory O'Neill is Panty's alter ego who runs the bar, but we basically organised this outside there, and Eddie calls it a gaily, where basically you have drag artists but also traditional Irish dancing and traditional Irish music, and he had basically done this for St. Patrick's Day and said, can we do it again on Capel Street in front of Panty Bar? And I went down a treat. People loved it. And you can see some of the acts there. Again, trad bands, brass bands. The marching brass bands are great. Obviously, because we're coming at the end of Halloween, we work with Dublin Bus. They have a ghost bus, which if you've never done it, I recommend. It's schlock, horror, cheesy fun, and there was queues the whole night for it. It's great. If you hear spooky stories, see gizzards and innards and all that sort of stuff. Just some imagery of it. Again, the Winter in Dublin branding looks fantastic there. People having a great time. That's the street art I mentioned. So those panels were done in our office the month before. We used them and we're using the Alive After 5 purple flag branding. We used them for the promo shop, but then also the kids and adults were being shown by the artists how to do that sort of stuff. And we have all these kind of choreographed panels. They're in storage now, but it's an amazing use of, say, if you have a site where there's hoarding in it or something that doesn't look particularly good, a bit of choreoboard and an artist, and it's fantastic. It's a participatory thing. And people, you can see there, people getting their photographs. We had a photo booth so people could, again, that's something you could take away or share and all that sort of stuff, getting people to tag Dublin Town and all that sort of stuff. We did, look, I won't go too much into this. We did a lot of, basically about 20% of our budget was advertising promo to make sure people knew about this. And we did radio ads, we did digital, we did print, we did, you can see some of the stuff there. We work with the transport companies who, again, were really supportive. So Dublin Bus, the Lewis stations, on the Dart, the trains, the different stops, and my little war of aggression, we had it out into all the out-of-town shopping centres, planting my flag, as it were, saying, come into town. Why are you in this sterile shopping centre? Come into town. It's great. Panels there and all that. Loads of media coverage. So we paid, I said, about 20% of the budget for paid media, but we got unpaid media just in terms of coverage, which we estimated value of about €43,000. media reach of about 2 million. And look, it did work. I'll go into it there, but won't go into that too much. Views on social media. Again, we programmed our social media to be like a Dublin by Night Fest takeover for the weeks beforehand. Everything was themed purple, as you can see. All the lights we have, the festoon lights we put up, were all turned purple. But what I'm more interested in, rather than all the social media stuff, and anyone wants to see this, I can share it with you. Like we did, the marketing team did a fantastic job. We feedback from our members and then feedback from the public about how they heard about it. So this is just some feedback from the business who took part or were on suite adjacent to it, who maybe weren't taking part but got the benefit from it. And you can see just the variation of it. So we had an Asian supermarket, a Brazilian restaurant, a shopping arcade, an art gallery. Palace and Yule was a beautiful little gift shop. Wildcat is just a 2-parlour. Boar's Head is a traditional kind of Dublin pub. It's a great pub. But the feedback from the people, so, 99% of people want to see it happen again. 80% of people said they were very satisfied in it. And you break down 20% who weren't, super satisfied. They wanted more. They wanted to run later. Why is it only on once a year? We want more of this. So the 20% negativity was just, we wanted bigger, we wanted more, we wanted it in more places. And like, this is, everyone felt safe. Everyone said they would come to it again. And, it hit the mark for Fáilte Ireland as well, because 30% of the visitors were from outside Dublin, and of that 30%, half were international visitors. And that's just a shot. The guy in the middle in the white shirt, that's the Lord Mayor of Dublin. He came down on the day. He basically raved about the event in the council chamber the following Monday. Basically said, why don't we have more of this? This is a great example of everyone work together. We got the Gardaí. People might know Clyde from our team there in the red jacket. But yeah, that was kind of it, really. Like, I mean, there's a lot. We did a piece with Red Sea. It's one of the conditions we had from the department to show the benefit of the event. There's a Red Sea, report that's about 20 pages long. I go into details of how people heard about it. For all the paid media, the last thing I'd say is that for all the paid media we did, only about 30% of people came to the event because they heard it on a radio ad or saw it online or saw it in, social media was bigger than all paid advertising, and word of mouth is still the biggest. And what I found was interesting was 70% of the people who came had been to the event last year, which again was a big event, but not quite as big. So it just shows that people will, if you give something good to people, even if it's not a well-established event, people go, oh yeah, that's on, I enjoyed that last year, I'll come back in for that. So that's it from me. I'm happy to take questions and queries. Adele can kind of cheat because she was involved in the organising it, so she knows all the dirty secrets. So that's it really.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Jerry. Yeah, the scale of that event is honestly incredible. That is jam-packed. Like, the offer is really outstanding. We'll open the floor up to questions. So if anyone's got a question, if you can pop your hand up, the wee icon, just to get us started, Jerry. I'd be really interested to know, with a scale of that size and with so many partners, what was the process like to get people to the table to actually make this a possibility? Because they're clearly with the planning, like you're saying there with the residents, like there was no complaints, but surely there's a lot of work behind the scenes that has to happen to ensure that everyone's on the same page to make something like this a success. What did that kind of look like, and how is that sort of continuing to progress?
I suppose there was a little bit of kind of serendipity with some of it. So there's three kind of things I look kind of that were part of it. First of all, we had done a smaller scale event to prove the concept, which then led to the creation of the second piece. Second of all, the department and there was an acknowledgement from the council, and I think broadly from government, that post-COVID cities were struggling and we need to do something, and especially something from nighttime economy. Now, the minister at the time, Catherine Martin, had done a policy paper on nighttime economy, which borrowed heavily from our submission, which also took an awful lot from Purple Flag, from ATCM, from the Responsible Hospitality Institute. So there was a proper interest in that there. And there was a kind of acknowledgement that we need to do more of these events. So we were already going to be working with this on a smaller scale with Dublin City Council. Last year it broadened out because it coincided with Fáilte Ireland wanting to do something for that winter brand. And we said, well, we have a ready-made thing for you, so that meets your requirements. And then the department got involved as well. The other crucial thing was we already had a working group for nighttime economy, which included the department, which included Fáilte Ireland, which included the council, ourselves, and other stakeholders. So we had an existing working group. I almost look at it as like the Purple Flag working group, and a lot of those people would also be part of our Purple Flag working group. The working group itself is the best preparation for doing something like this. So we already had that group. Everyone was bought in. And like, when we were able to go back this year and say, look, we did this event, we want to grow it. Will everyone pony up the same amount of money, but then also increase it by another 20%. And they went, yeah. And it was the easiest ask. Now there's a bit of chasing, a bit of that, and like there's an own resource amount of stuff that you have to go through all your paperwork, you have to show your work and make sure you meet all those standards and requirements. But everyone was really, really enthusiastic, and I actually feel, especially from the department, we're going to have a new Minister of Arts and Culture soon. The civil servants are really bought in, and I can't see, regardless who the minister is, this changing. I really think they're bought into that. So really that existing partnership and proving the concept. So the other thing that I suppose just mention why we had to do the surveys and all that sort of stuff. It proves what we're doing is meeting what Fáilte Ireland want, and it proves what we're doing is meeting what the department wants. And what we all want is a vibrant city centre bringing people in. But from the arts and culture side of things, they want to see arts and culture in the street. They want to see performers of as wide a variety as possible performing and getting paid. And Fáilte Ireland want to be able to see it's bringing people into the city, and it's bringing people from outside of Dublin into the city as well, and international. So we have all that. So by satisfying all those requirements, I think the future of that event is secure if we can keep doing it and hopefully keep growing it. That's the challenge. Actually growing it is the challenge, because we're constrained by space. The city is the city. The street pattern is the street pattern. It's a very old street pattern. How you grow that out, and I'm sure you all might have it in your own towns and cities. Like you might have a central square, central plaza, but if you get bigger than that, where do you go? And then you're into road closures and all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah, because I was going to say, with a sort of event like this, and you're saying that like recently with the most recent iteration, you had the addition of doing like street art and having that sort of engagement. What does that look like? You're saying if there are those challenges, particularly around space, maybe just like diversifying more sort of events, or is that something that's still to be planned for further down the line?
Well, look, we're doing it even this year. I mentioned the Lunar New Year Festival. So Drury Street, which is one of the streets I mentioned there, that I said we reduced the amount of stalls from 24 to 23 because it's part pedestrianised. Section of the street is pedestrianised, but then there's construction work still going on. There are competing interests between retail and nighttime economy businesses. So we are actually reducing the amount of stuff we're doing there, and we're looking at other locations. So the Lunar New Year event, we're reducing our presence on Drury Street, even though we'll still be there, but we're now moving a lot of that activity and growing the event, but by having it in another location. So Suffolk Street, which is at the bottom of Grafton Street, if people know it. But again, it's a challenge because it's great having some of these streets that are now recently pedestrianised. It's easier to use them as event spaces, but there's more plates spinning and more sticks, basically.
Yeah. And I know you were sort of showing there some of the feedback from the businesses and sort of how they sort of felt about the event. What was there in terms of, increase in spend, footfall? How did the businesses find the impact of the event? Because I presume, you're going to have a lot of people going to bars, restaurants while they're enjoying all of this. What was that kind of like for them?
Yeah, I think one of the things when we were programming it, there's the Alive After 5. So we deliberately didn't want to go past 10 because after 6, you get in that family market, that naturally kind of moves on. And the folks who are there after 10, it's your friends saying, well, look, if you want to get a late bite to eat, if you want to go to one of the bars or clubs in the area, on you go. And so we're not trying to eat their dinner on that. But also, even the nature of the performances, no one was performing for like an hour or something like that. All the performances, even the headline act, it was kind of 25, 30, 35 minutes. And then a lot of little 5 and 10 minute pieces, so that you could go, you see something, you feel you got value for it's a free event, of course. You feel you got value for money, you feel you got value for your time, and they go, well, you know what, I'm going to go grab a bite to eat in that nice Thai restaurant there or whatever it is. So it's all kind of bite sized and accessible. There's no kind of Bruce Springsteen 3-hour set going on like that.
Oh, that's amazing. Has anyone got any questions for Cherry about the Dublin at Night Festival? If not, Adele, it'd be great to bring you in to kind of hear about your experience of also being involved in this fantastic event, if you want to come in.
I just think that they're deadly for doing it. I think what's very smart is also that it benefits the businesses. So some of them were staying open later or putting a stall outside. And also Dublin Town are really strong with communication. So the fact that there were no noise complaints and everything, these guys were going door to door to door to door. I think you got some stuff translated, did you as well, to like reach certain people as well?
There's a lot of Brazilian businesses, so we had stuff translated to Portuguese, and there's a lot of Asian businesses. So Asian market were one of the folks involved. So one of their staff helpfully offered to translate stuff into Mandarin. So for Chinese run business, we were able to give them a double-sided leaflet saying, this is what's happening, and here it is in Mandarin, and similarly, here it is in Portuguese.
And the other thing is around making it easy for the businesses to interact. So around health and safety insurance, they created an agreement around the insurance. So the businesses didn't have to worry about that. And then for health and safety, a template was created that helped the businesses to fill out if they're doing a stall. So when it came to all of the health and safety stuff, it wasn't a headache. It was actually, because that's a real barrier for people. So just they really looked at the perspective of different people to make it as easy to participate as possible if it was a family or if it was a business stall holder. And I'll stop talking now, but just good job.
Just on what Adele said there, just what we did with the stall. So everything was done under our insurance, and then we worked with the city council so that effectively, if you want to trade anywhere, you need a casual trading license, all this sort of stuff. So the council did a kind of a blanket event, the trading license, rather than each stall holder having to get an individual trading license and pay an individual fee. So it made it far more cost effective, and just as Adele said, reducing the paperwork for people who want to get involved. Because you're selling them this idea like, hey, come out of behind your counter, come out in the street, trade, but you don't want to say, and here's the shed load of paperwork. We try to make it as easy and accessible as possible for any business to get involved.
That's really, really interesting. I think when you think about events like this, there's obviously so many moving parts, and those things like insurance and health and safety, they might not necessarily be the most exciting parts, but they're really important. So it's great that there was those opportunities to make that process as easy as it could be to get everyone involved. That's fantastic. Victoria Oxley, you've put a comment in the chat. Can I bring you in?
Yeah, hi everybody. So we're in the process of creative spaces and bringing more culture back into Gateshead. So we've had a long sort of history of being very engaged with culture that over COVID and everything has kind of moved away, but we're trying to bring that back. And I guess I've got two questions, which is, for an event of this size, how did you go about engaging the grassroots organisations, and what advice would you have for us targeting those sorts of organisations? And then the other was, out of the immediate catchment, did other communities engage with it, and were you able to bring them in on the performances?
Yeah, so Victoria, just to check, do you work for a council or a bid, or what's your own?
Council. So I'm town centre manager for Gateshead, but for the council.
Well, what we were able to do, again, I know Dublin is it's a relatively large city, but still very compact, and we have a very large membership. We're big by bid standards. We have over 2,000 businesses as members, but within our membership, we were able to source an awful lot of the stuff. A lot of the buskers who performed are people who busk in Dublin anyway. All the businesses who took stall are pretty much members of ours. For other events, we've leaned into so Lunar New Year. I'm just talking about it because I know it's coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're engaging with the Chinese embassy, the Korean embassy, because they have performers who do traditional performance from their cultures and things like that. So they're going to be taking part of it, but they're the only ones who are involved who aren't necessarily a member. And look, within, again, just even the drag shows and drag artists, a lot of them are people who are performing in bars and clubs in Dublin anyway. And look, and also just leading our own network of contacts. So Eddie, who did a lot of the comparing stuff, we know Eddie. The chefs who do the cooking demos, they're all chefs in restaurants that we know, that we've worked with on food festivals, things like that. And from the other kind of performers, I don't know, Adele, if you want to come in on that, because I think you guys were involved in that as well. We worked with Adele in your previous guys with Dave's events, where the event management company we had involved. So we had ideas of what type of music we wanted and how to curate it, and we wanted to use local arts and acts, and we did kind of I felt like an A&R man or something like that. We're going, yeah, they're good, they'll work with that, that sort of thing. So we did work with partners and to say, well, look, we want a kind of a rock band, we want a soul singer, and we were, I suppose, conscious trying to say, well, look, we'd have a big Asian community, we have a big South American community, there is, like one of the most iconic LGBTQ venues in the area. Can we work with people from those communities to be part of that act? And then, people, and we also have great, like, traditional musicians. There's trad bars on, say, Capel Street, so we brought the trad outside instead of being in the back room at McNeil's and things like that. Adele, I don't know if you want to come in on just the bigger musical acts and that sort of stuff from you're working on it.
It's just kind of finding those gatekeepers. Like if you go to a local venue, a bar, etc., someone is programming their music, someone is programming their acts, someone from within that community. So because of Eddie, his experience, his knowledge, he was making sure it was something that he was looking out for the artists, but he was also making sure it fit the event. So it's just finding those gatekeepers within the different organizations or groups that you're trying to reach. They'll be able to advise, and they can also look at bringing in maybe well-known acts, but also giving developing artists a chance to perform and reach a wider audience. So again, if you're trying to, suppose, go for grants or funding, if you can show that you're supporting the development of artists, that helps your city, but also might help you access funding that you might not otherwise. But it's just finding those gatekeepers. So it's just having a couple of coffees, you'll find a couple of really good people, and then you just keep working with them for future events.
And even one of the bands who we had in 2023 that we couldn't get back, we were approached and said, look, we're on tour, so we can't do that. But they were really quick on, we had such a great time. Have you thought about these guys and these guys? Or my brothers in this band, they're really good. And like, once you do something like this once, you can, even if you can't get those people back involved, there's a scene, there's a kind of subculture. People go, oh, well, if you want another band that's a bit like us, have you talked to Jimmy or Mary or whoever, and they have a band. And we did that this year. We were able to get some people on recommendations for folks who participated last year, couldn't come back, but said, oh, look, I know the exact type of gig you're trying to do. Talk to these guys.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Azra, can I bring you in as well?
Hi there. It looks amazing, all the stuff that you've been doing in Dublin. I guess so. I'm in local authority in London. We're looking at our nighttime economy and events generally. Our biggest challenge is working with partners like TfL Transport, because our area is particularly busy in transport as a hub. How did you work with your transport companies? How did you kind of get through the doors? Because that's also a real challenge often for us to kind of get them to see the benefits of shutting major roads down to do something. How did you kind of persuade them, and what was the kind of key things that we can take away?
And look, one of the challenges was you're talking about TfL, are the equivalent in Dublin with the national body, but would look after the overarching transport, the NTA, the National Transport Authority. I suppose we were able to say, well, look, this is going to bring people in by public transport. We're doing most of these events in pedestrianised streets. We are advising people, and look, everything we've done, we're looking at from a sustainability point of view as well. So we're trying to encourage people to either walk, cycle, active travel, or use public transport in. The only traffic rearrangements we really had to do was actually diverting an exit point from one of the car parks for St. William Street. Everything else was pretty much on a street that was already closed. There is still traffic management sort of stuff we have to do. But if you look at, say, the advertising sort of stuff, there was still a decent spend behind it, but we got way more value because, one, we have a good working relationship with the media in Dublin, the radio stations, newspapers, and we got probably, for a $5,000 spend, you probably got 10 grand worth of content. But what we were able to do with the Digi panels, the kind of council-owned exterior site, but really with the NTA control site as well, we got great value for money because we were able to come to them and say, look, we want to spend money with you advertising on the trains, on the trams, on the buses, on the stops, outside and around the city. So, and what can you give us for a spend of this? So we got loads of coverage, probably way beyond what they would be for a commercial sort of, event that they were going to, because we were saying, well, this is not just us, this is all the different agencies involved, and the Transport Authority would be kind of party to a lot of those discussions. They're looking at a lot of stuff around the nighttime economy. We're rolling out 24-hour bus services. We've got 11 now, and that's increasing. It's the only thing that's slowing the increase is basically the recruitment of drivers and engineers. So they were looking at it that it meets their aims and objectives. So I always look at it like, what can we do to meet the aims and objectives of the partner agency? So Fáilte Ireland needed a kick-off event for their Winter in Dublin campaign. We gave them that. The Department of Arts and Culture wanted to showcase culture, wanted performers getting paid and in the spotlight in the middle of Dublin. We gave them that. But the transport companies, it was basically saying, you can get in and out of the city at night, which is something they're really trying to push. It's a massive investment they're making, and use public transport. That was part of the messaging. And we're also able to say to them, we're also going to buy advertising space to tell people who are waiting for their bus, hey, there's this great thing coming at the start of November. So we basically said, well, we looked at it from that point of view. What's the thing they need? What's the sweet spot they need to hit? And we said, well, look, we're doing that for you. We're basically promoting the fact that you are rolling out these still underused nighttime routes, and you can get in and out, and that message that you can get into the city easily and accessibly on public transport and walk around and enjoy a nice, car-free environment. Because you see, there's not one car in any of those pictures I showed, and most people did. We know from the post-event research that most people actually did. Very few people drove. Most people either walked, cycled, or got public transport. Like well over 80% of people.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you. That's really good.
So thanks, Ezra. Thanks, Jerry. Would anyone like to sort of share some experiences they've had with regards to sort of setting up cultural events, or maybe something similar at Dublin at Night? I know, Lisa Edwards, we've got you on the call, and you do the fantastic Out With Festival in Dunfermline. It would be great to hear sort of about your perspective from an area sort of a wee bit smaller. Oh, Lisa, you there? Okay, I might come back and see if I can get Lisa later on. I'm slightly biased. I'm originally from Dunfermline, so I've had personal experience of the Out With Festival, which is quite nice as a kind of an offshoot of the Fringe. So it's quite nice to have some representation. So what I will do, if possible, I know we were talking earlier on about the support from Irish government and the nighttime economy advisors. I know we've both got Adele and we've got Kate on the call. It'd be really great to hear about sort of your experiences involved with government and the things that you've kind of been doing in post to kind of boost that culture in the nighttime economy. I know, Kate, for example, we've got the kind of youth nights concept, which has been really exciting. So either of you fancy kind of explaining a wee bit more about the work that you've been doing as part of the pilot?
Yeah, hi Laura. Yeah, so I'm Kate, and we're based in Galway on the West Coast in Ireland. So we were part of the 9 pilots, nighttime economy advisors that they managed and kind of run by the government. So we all have nighttime economy action plans. That was part of the agreement with the government and the Department of Arts and Culture. So obviously during the consultation, we came up, obviously that lots of different gaps or challenges came up, or the needs and wants of the various, community residents, whatever. And in Galway, the lack of youth events in the evening time is there and very strong. So we do get seed funding from the department to deliver or implement our action plans, and some of us get some support locally. So we tried something on the National Day of Creativity for Children. We creating workshops with a really actually well-known DJ. So we mentored 5 young DJs for a few weeks, and then they performed at an event at Ireland's Day of Celebration for Children or young people. And the ages between 14 and 19 that we're looking at are 16 and 19, because we see that's where the gaps are. And out of that, then we developed Youth Lates, which we did last year from September to December, once a month, a gig for youth with no adults. I mean, it's obviously managed with safeguarding and vulnerability and all of that, but no adults are allowed in, basically. You'd be surprised how many try to get in to see their children perform, but it's basically allowing them an opportunity to experience the nighttime, because there isn't, those days are gone. They're not allowed into bars anymore. There's no space to perform. So it's an open mic. You sign up. We have kind of a more established band performing first. Then we have 6 or 7 open mic performances. And we had the venue that we had was 120 capacity, and it was booked every month. I mean, so that it's grown legs itself. And now we're doing it into 20. We're going to run it this year again. But the key to that was our partnership. It was developing. We had good partnerships anyway, but we just needed to come together to kind of formalize it, I suppose. So it's Music Generation, which is a program originally set up by U2, which is, the idea is that every child should play an instrument or be a part of music. So in Galway, it's very strong. And then we have our youth work agencies that we would work with. And now we think it's going to, we've got additional funding from one of our partners, and they're going to oversee it instead of me having to do it, because it's just too much to do as a local authority. It's just limited flexibility. So we've got the funding already. Our first event would be February, but the progression pathway part of it, I think, is that now Music Generation are holding, have set up a space, rehearsal space for all the bands that want to be part of Youth Late every Monday evening. So they have access to equipment, access to professional production crew, so they can rehearse in a space that is, safe. So then they can apply to be a part of this open mic as part of the Youth Lates, and the DJ element part. They've now brought on a DJ onto their team in Music Generation, and they're rolling out a 12-week program for youth to learn to DJ. So it's just about the kind of the various progression pathways that can happen about, if you build good partnership, I think. So basically, the ideal scenario is that we develop these, start these, but then we give them out and give them back. So because we're not going to be, we might not be here forever, but it's also, some of these things shouldn't sit within local authority anyhow. They should be out there with the partners that should be running them. So that's one of the things that we did. It's good. It's been very rewarding, I must say, and the youth deserve a space. They are they're not far from the nighttime. They do bring, drive the economy as much as any of us. So they deserve their own space and time to do whatever they want. And people can't be given out about the youth causing hassle if they're not providing a space for them to actually, do whatever they need to do.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I think you're bang right there that, there is that gap where they can't really engage in a lot of places in the nighttime economy, traditionally, like bars and clubs, that kind of thing, but they should still be included in some remit. So something like this is great, and giving them that opportunity to develop their own skills and to learn about the nighttime economy. So when the time does come, they've got an understanding of what it is, and to be part of it and to grow it and to sort of continue that. And I know I'm right in thinking as well, there's been sort of the cafe lates aspect as well. Would you mind talking a wee bit about that? Because again, I think it's a sort of different sort of thing, but it's really great in terms of boosting that sort of early evening work.
That came up strongly in Galway anyway. Like we Galway it's a very vibrant city. It's kind of a walking city. We don't have very many experiences or tourist things. We're medieval city, so the core of our city is quite small. It's all walkable. A lot of busking, a lot of energy. But people love drinking coffee. We've excellent coffee shops, but they all close at 6 p.m. So that really came through in the consultation, especially with our students. We've 40,000 maybe students, a lot of Asian students who wouldn't be interested in alcohol. So there were like non-alcohol spaces that you could just go and hang out without feeling whatever pressure or whatever. But basically a cafe culture. So we did an expression of interest or an open call for businesses. So, and I thought we would have got more pickup, but again, businesses just can't cope with doing these follow-up forums. It's a pain. They're busy, they're stressed, So I think we had six really good ones. And some of them did like once every Thursday for once a month, or once a month, maybe 4 months, or weekly for a month, or whatever. So, some of them know that this is coming, so they wanted to test it out. So they had an opportunity to apply for funding. That because we're supported by the Department of Arts and Culture, really the funding isn't towards staffing costs or overhead. It's really towards programming culture, or music or whatever in your space to attract footfall. So they're taking kind of, I suppose, a little bit of a risk themselves, but at least they're getting some funding towards the trialing of this. So yeah, I think most of them are going to continue doing it themselves because they saw the demand and the interest. So we're going to go out again with another open call, I think, for this, and fine tune it based on the feedback that we got. Like one of the cafes, it would never opened after 6, and it's a stunning space. So they did lots of workshops. Now they charged in, which is fine, but I was like, the whole point is that you stay open. You're not a venue. You're not a culture venue. You're a cafe. So while you can do workshops, the whole point of this is that you're open for coffee. So then they tweaked things as they went. They were like, oh yeah, okay. But their workshops for 4 weeks sold out in 10 minutes. And that was like, I think 50 capacity for the workshops. And then they kept it open for walk-ins for coffee. Yeah, I mean, they see from the students that are coming in that there is a demand, and that they know they're going to have to pivot at some point, and they appreciated the opportunity to trial it. So, yeah, I think there's definitely potential. I think some of the other nighttime economy play are in Galway or in Ireland are going to roll out, similar versions of a cafe late thing as well.
No, that's fine. And I think, yeah, you see it with now that kind of trend that, a lot of younger people are choosing not to drink. They still need those spaces to meet, and they maybe want it removed from alcohol. I know we saw it a lot with like universities with freshers weeks are moving away from being alcohol focused. They're maybe doing yoga, or someone where they did like communal IKEA trips, which is quite practical. But there are those requirements for spaces where you can just socialize and not feel that pressure. So it's fantastic to see that there has been that interest, and we'll continue to watch as that progresses, because I think it's something that can be replicated once you understand, where are the benefits, where are some things that perhaps need tweak. That's fab.
Yeah, I suppose that's the joy of being a pilot. You can just trial and test everything for as long as you can get away with it.
And then keep what sticks, and then you can tweak sort of whatever might need it. No, that's fantastic.
Can I ask a quick question just to Jared about are you allowed to say how the funding or the how much money was invested in this in Galway or Dublin by night?
It was the 4 partners all ponied up the same amount. So, and it grew. So look, 4 partners by 75 each. That's what it cost to do, basically, and that's all in. So that's that's everything. That's including the advertising, including the post event or event-based research, commission red to do that. It's not cheap, but it's doable and we grew that by 25 per contributor this year, because I think previously everyone put in about 50, and then we said, look, to grow it in terms of participants and in locations, we need to will everyone put up 25, and everyone went, yeah, we will. So that was it's great to have that. Like I said, we wouldn't be able to do it solo.
And did Dublin Town have to put in that money as well? And that's from your businesses, and they didn't mind that. They were okay.
Well, I think they saw the return on it. I mean, like they like they're looking at it going, okay, that's a large scale event, and we're able to say to them, well, look, we're putting this in on your behalf, but we're getting the council, who they don't always like, to match it. They're getting Fáilte Ireland, who they think should be doing more on their behalf, and they're getting the department, central government, who they definitely don't like, all to pony up as well. So we're saying, well, by us putting that in, we're getting everyone else to match it, to promote your street and your area. I mean, that most people see the benefit in that. Most people see that as a win. And like I said, I don't like. There's always people who will complain, but 90% of people were very effusive in their support as business members, saying, "This is great. We want to see this back. We want to see this bigger. We want to see more of this. We want to see one of the summer. We want all that sort of stuff."
Yeah, you're lucky to have long pedestrian streets.
There's a bit of that, but
your long hours are like, oh. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that one. Anyone else would like to jump in and either sort of share some events in their area or comments, questions? The floor is open. Well, if that looks like it is us for today, can I thank everyone for engaging in today's Purple Flag Forum. It's been really interesting, really valuable, and a lot to take away from it. A few reminders from us. So as mentioned, next Tuesday is ATCM Ireland in Mullingar. We'll be sending out details in terms of venue and agenda for that very shortly. So that'll be with you for those who have booked on. Reminders as well, we have the Place Management Conference this year that will be looking at cuts impacting arts and culture budgets, which will likely come up within the conversation. And we'll have Summer School this year, which is looking at arts and culture, and we'll be in Bradford, which is the City of Culture this year. So plenty of things to look out for, which will be general comms, weekly emails, Basecamp, keeping you in the loop with what's going on. But with that, guys, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.